Your halftime entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the speed metal kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage for the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Wow, what a day it has been. A historic day for Auburn basketball. Bruce Pearl has announced he will step down, retiring as the head coach of Auburn men's basketball and also opening the door for the next era to begin, but still a very familiar one. We're going to talk about it on this reaction live stream, and we hope to hear from so many of you as well. This is a thank you, celebration, and looking back fondly at the Bruce Pearl era of Auburn men's basketball. Well, War Eagle, everybody, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk, we share, we discuss the Auburn experience, which is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easy way to say it, though, is if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing today in this particular reaction live stream. The big news of the day, one that we probably all didn't see coming without some inside sources, things like that. If you had those, you probably were a little bit more prepared for this. Bruce Pearl has retired as the Auburn men's basketball head coach. An 11-year wonderful time for Auburn basketball, literally taking a program that was easily mocked, easily dismissed, not even thought of in the men's college basketball space for quite some time, and turned it into one of the premier, annually respected, and might I say, just to stir some up of those fan bases, a blue blood of college men's basketball. We are here to celebrate that. We are going to discuss it, certainly react. We want to hear from you, the Auburn family. So as you're coming into the live stream portion of this show, let us know that you're here. Make sure that you are smashing the like button, the share button. We want to know who's here hanging out from us. And as we asked at the start in the chat, we want to hear some of your favorite memories, whether that's their quotes, things that you saw Bruce do, some of the things that you saw that just, made you endear you towards him, whether it was the on the court stuff, off the court stuff, of the antics and things that, he just made himself so unique. We want to talk about Bruce Pearl. Now, I know this feels a little bit maybe like almost like a memorial or something. We're not there. It is a celebration. It is a thank you. It is that type of reaction live stream. It felt appropriate to do that this evening on a little bit of a spur of the moment live stream with you all. So don't be shy. You can come into the chat and enjoy that way. We are going to, I don't know if anybody will take advantage of it this evening, but we are going to utilize a call-in link. It's not scrolling for me for whatever reason right now, but you can utilize that. It is at the bottom if you'd like to. Let's see if we can get that going right there and see if that'll help us out. Nope, that's not actually going to work us out. That's unfortunately what I get for not preparing for that one there. But you can utilize the call-in link that is available at the top of the chat on YouTube, on Facebook, all the different places that it's available for you. So please utilize that if you'd like. We very rarely give this option outside of our Wednesday night shows. But if you want to come on in and stay a while and share your thoughts about Bruce Pearl, you have the floor to do so through a multitude of different formats. There's really no agenda for this. I pulled up a bunch of the statements from important parties. We are going to spend probably the majority of our time talking about Bruce Pearl, but we're also going to spend a good portion of our time looking ahead too, because that was part of the announcement today with all of that. So we thank you guys for checking in. So many people are here, and look, terrible news. All right. It is a downer, but it's like a wow moment as well. It wasn't something that we were all expecting today. If you wanted to forget about the results of the Oklahoma game, there you go. Something to take your mind off of. Obviously, I think anytime there is a change, a lot of the time the change is maybe not so good. Very rare is it that a person leaves the university, and this is not really a leaving, but exits as their time as the head coach on such a good note. Usually it is a firing or they take another job somewhere, and it kind of leaves a lot of situations. This is Bruce Pearl not only stepping down from Auburn men's basketball coach, but he is stepping away from the game of basketball. And no, according to his own words, at this time, he is not pursuing a political career, at least actively. So for those of you that push that narrative, so it was a little premature. I would say don't buy into rumors as much as you think it is. Now, I'm not saying that wasn't part of the equation. He even addressed that he had considered and prayed about it. But, one of those things that sometimes people just like to run with and utilize in the off season. So anyway, how do we get to this point today? What transpired? Obviously, the news began to break. I think it was Pete Thamel on ESPN that broke the news first. Of sources were telling him that Bruce was going to announce his retirement, and obviously people attached that he was going to announce a run for Senate, all that kind of things. And as the day transpired, it became more and more apparent that the places I was checking in as well, he was not. It was not looking like the story was going to change, I guess is what I'm saying. And then about the time I had officially felt like we were ready to acknowledge it as well, the official announcement came. If you have not done yourself the service of watching that 15-minute video, I thought very well done, very well produced. Once again, Stephen Leonard, I would consider him maybe a little bit of a fan of the content we do here. Maybe at least some of what we do, at least. We love how much he does for the Auburn basketball program. He and his team put together another outstanding bit of media and video with Bruce, just not only recounting his whole story here at Auburn, but his whole complete story of his basketball journey of coaching. And so I hope all Auburn fans out there are going to do themselves the service of listening to that and watching that in and of its full. And I loved what someone said online that, wow, we have entered the cinematic universe of Auburn, because not but a few minutes later, they released the last part of the video, a post-credit scene with him beautifully and literally handing the basketball over to your next head coach, Stephen Pearl. We'll talk about that towards the end here, but we want to leave some space out of all those different things there and talk about that. Let's see what we got going on here in the chat. Anything that we need to address? This is from Cody. Says he came to my job at Biddy and Bo's Coffee hours before we opened our doors. He was an amazing man, and won't forget what he did for our program. I think that's one of the things that we really don't need to lose sight of, is that this man loved fully and overflowingly the Auburn community, but even people outside of the Auburn community. He just loved to extend a kind word, a warm handshake, a hug, a guy whose emotions flows off the cuff, every bit of himself, right? He is such a giving, as far as we get to know, as far as fans get to know outside looking in, for those that have had an opportunity to see him, out of that element, you get to know that maybe that is pretty genuine what you see out there. I have only had one interaction with Bruce in person. It was one opportunity I had to go to practice as a media member and watch the practice. And I've told this story before, but one of the first, he walks in unassuming, and he just kind of, it's Bruce Pearl. It's his place. You figured he's going to get to business, not really pay attention to everybody. Well, he proceeds to go down the line, and whether it was another media member or some special guest to the practice to welcome all, he gets to me and he introduces himself. And I'm like, Bruce, I'm here to see you, like, and your team. Of course I know who you are, but that's Bruce Pearl, right? he wants everybody to feel welcome. He wants everybody to feel special. And I think he did that. And then some. So what a great representative for the Auburn family. And we're not done with Bruce Pearl quite just yet. He's going to continue on in an ambassador type of role. I believe it has been reported, if not outright said, that he is moving into a role that's called special aid to the, or I forget the title now off the top of my head, special assistant to the athletic director. We've seen like the former softball coach, Jimmy Dean, move into that role for his last, little bit of time being involved with Auburn. We're now seeing that here. I think being an ambassador for Auburn is the perfect transitionary for whatever he wants to do next role. And I hope that whether this role continues on for a long time or whatever, that we are seeing Bruce Pearl here for as long and as much as possible. And that's what he said. He said, I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay at Auburn. Part of the reason that he is not at this time going into politics is because that would take him away from Auburn too much. So he is planning on being around, being there. So this feels a little different. I guess that's what I'm getting at in my discussions about that this evening. It feels a little bit different. His goodbye letter video was amazing. This is from WT. I would 100% agree with you there. I thought very much in what we've come to know of Bruce, of emotions on his sleeve and being very heartfelt, well thought through, did an outstanding job with that. This is from WT as well. From the moment that he got off the plane at AU, he was all in for AU and showed it in everything he did. I think that's the specialness of Bruce Pearl. This is a guy, whether you agree with the punishment that he was serving post his time at Tennessee and whether it was worthy of all that, that aside, this is a guy that knew he needed in coaching, needed a fresh start. And Auburn needed a fresh start too. It was a match made in heaven. It was a match made for two entities, a person and a program that needed each other to bring back to the fullness of what their potential has always been. And I think Bruce has said that and will always talk about that, how much that meant to him and why he loved Auburn so much. They stood by him. They gave him the shot. Jay Jacobs gave him the shot, the AD that hired him. And that's a pretty special way to begin your time as the Auburn head coach for men's basketball. This is from Unbeaten Lake. It's a weird feeling. So many questions about the future of the program we don't know yet. Hopefully there isn't that much of a drop-off if there is one. And what I don't want to be lost in this time right now is the questions about the future, because today, appropriately, basketball practice begins. We'll hear from new head coach Stephen Pearl this Wednesday, I believe, is what they've announced the press conference to be. So we'll get to dive into that. I don't really think there are many questions. The biggest question people will have is, was that the right choice or something like that? And to me, we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail in just something. But once again, I want to ask for the audience that's here live, if there's a favorite moment, memory, a game, whatever, what you're most thankful for with Bruce, all of that, we want to hear from you tonight. As I've said, I've made the phone link available for anybody that wants to use it. It's an impromptu night for this. I didn't think we'd get a lot of interest in it, but we do try to leave it available for very special occasions like this. And I'll try to monitor you guys if you get into the green room down there below. So what I've done here, we're going to see if we can shift over. This is the audio portion of the show. You guys can enjoy this. The video portion of the show, you guys can enjoy this. But for the audio side of things, you can just listen in and you won't have to see like the things on the screen. You won't be able to see them, I guess I should say. So what we're going to bring up on the screen right now is a bunch of the different statements and stuff that I want us to read through and kind of just utilize. These are all made by Auburn men's basketball, their staff, their media team. Move this over to the correct side right there. And you guys can look at that a little bit. You should be able to zoom in, things like that. I'm going to read a few of them. We're going to start with what John Cohen said about that, if I can actually get my little mouse to work here. He says, throughout the 5 decades on the court, Bruce has energized fan bases, won championships, helped student athletes graduate, worked with young people to achieve their dreams, impacted countless lives, the marks of a true college basketball Hall of Famer. No stranger to the usage of that name right there. While Bruce has been a stalwart of college basketball for his entire career, nowhere has he made a stronger impact than his 11 years at Auburn. During his tenure on the Plains, Bruce was brought pride to the Auburn family as he pursued and won championships through relentless toughness and determination. We have seen BP, I love that even he calls him BP in this, coach over these last 3 seasons, not just games, but at morning workouts and in the practice gym. It has been a pleasure watching Coach Pearl love the student athletes so deeply and take pride in the successes, as I move away from it a little bit too early, both on and off the court, but also instilling in them what it means to be an Auburn man. I know Bruce and Brandy will continue to be pillars of the Auburn community and that they will be strong advocates for the next chapter of Auburn men's basketball and all of Auburn University. I think that's the thing that people need to remember out of this is not the end of the Auburn and Bruce Pearl story, the Pearl story specifically, but certainly not the end of the Auburn and Bruce Pearl story. And John Cohen only got to see part of this story. One of the things that I think is important to remind people, yes, Bruce Pearl was hired by Jay Jacobs and he honored him. He was retained at a time where there was a lot of interest at stealing him away from Auburn by former AD Alan Green. So we definitely need to give our kudos to him for that and for continuing that good relationship. John Cohen always supporting the people that he has under his guidance as the athletic director. This is from Terry. He says, congratulations to Coach Pearl's retirement. Time to get behind the new coach. Yeah, we'll be talking about him in 1 minute here. He is a 1-0 coach. Get back to the Final Four. That would be really good to see. Tim says, War Eagle. BP was the best, and he will be difficult to follow. That's why you replace him with a Pearl. Unbeaten Lake with a memory. My favorite memory was how it was about to go down when Bruce ripped off his jacket in the 2019 tournaments. One of the things that has been missing over the last couple of years is seeing him rip off the jacket and fling it away. I know he is very grateful for those rule changes that allowed them to not wear suits all the time, but I mean, we all loved it. I mean, it was just a sign of it's about to go down, as you so eloquently put there. Unbeaten Lake. All right, keep going here. Let's look through some of these other ones. I think this is the next one here. I'm trying to not skip through them too quickly. It's scrolling too quick there. Why is this? Well, we'll get it figured out here in just a second. Stand by for just a minute. Just one scroll. That's all we're looking for. That apparently we're not going to be able to read. Chris Roberts, his particular things, because it just doesn't want me to. There we go. All right. Chris Roberts says, on March 18th, 2014, Bruce Pearl captivated the entire Auburn family as he stepped off the plane and proudly declared that men's basketball championships would soon come to the Plains. Throughout his 11 seasons at the helm, Bruce backed up that declaration and more, bringing the national acclaim to our program and pride to the Auburn family. It has been a true pleasure watching Bruce lead Auburn's program, elevated stature, and develop student athletes into Auburn men. Some very common themes that you're seeing here. I'm very thankful for his tireless work BP has put into Auburn's men basketball program and the way in which he has truly loved and championed Auburn University. Tracy and I wish both Bruce and Brandy the best as they enter the next chapter, and we're thrilled that they will continue to be treasured members of the Auburn community. We're going to talk about Stephen here in just a second. There's a lot of notes on them, so we'll come back to him in just a minute. So we'll just kind of put that to the side for just a second, and then we'll bring it back out for everybody to see. What else? What else do we need to talk about in the Bruce Pearl specific realm? Obviously, you think about the championships. You think about SEC regular season titles, tournament titles. You take your mind all the way back to that very first year. And might I take a personal point of privilege here? For those of you that know, we've been doing E2C Network, or back in its heyday, the Ever to Conquer podcast, which is, if you haven't figured it out by now, what E2C stands for. In its heyday, the very first thing that made us broaden our horizons to try to do new things was the arrival of Bruce Pearl. I'll never forget that Clint Richardson wasn't really that prominent on our content. He'd been on a couple times, but then I just messaged him one day and said, look, I think it'd be fun to do a basketball specific show or segment or something. And you're talking about all this a lot. You seem super excited about it. What if we tried this out? And lo and behold, a few games into the season, the Texas Tech game, we did it. It was a loss. And there were a lot of them after that. But we have Bruce Pearl to thank for some of the things that you see here at E2C Network. This may not be here. I think it championed content in that for us, definitely, but in a lot of other ways, interest in the Auburn story, in the Auburn experience, definitely on our end, but even beyond us. So I thank Bruce for that. It has been a joy over the 11 years. It's weird to think about it. Since he arrived, I mean, we started a little bit before him, but since he arrived, we've been doing this. I've been doing this. And it does feel like the end of an era. But I'm not sad about it, if that makes sense to anybody out there this evening. This is I don't want to call it a joyous occasion, but this feels appropriate. This feels like this is the way it was supposed to happen, and the way it was supposed to go, outside of winning a national title, which he came close to, obviously, twice now. We mentioned the SEC championships, regular season and in tournament. We have achieved the number 1 overall ranking, the number 1 overall seed. We have had 2 players come so close to winning National Player of the Year, top recruiting classes, finding diamonds in the rough. I mean, people dismiss Dylan Cardwell's, and look at what he's done now. People dismiss Jared Harper's, and look at what they've done now. And then you brought in the superstars. Thinking back to Chuma Okeke, Isaac Okoro, Sharif Cooper, JT Thor, thinking about Janai Broom, thinking about Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith, the absolute incredible talent that has been brought in to create the absolute best moments in 11 years. Just doesn't feel like it's been that long, does it? It's something to really look back on and be proud of. Tim says, my favorite BP moments were the years we swept Bama and the joy and way Bruce celebrated the crane kick, all of that, getting the monkey off the back of winning in Lexington and doing it a lot last year, whether it was versus Kentucky or not. We used to talk about it this way. Bruce was checking off boxes of getting rid of losing streaks or maximizing this. You want to talk about him becoming the winningest head coach in Auburn history. Bruce has done pretty much everything that you can outside of making it past the Final Four. You want to talk about Hall of Fame? It doesn't matter what people think of him outside of Auburn. He's Hall of Fame here. What he has done for Auburn, basketball or not, is going to be difficult to be replaced. And it's okay if it's not. There will be another time for another Bruce Pearl to rise up, maybe even right away. But right now, we just want to celebrate that as much as we can. You can keep your commentary coming. We do want to spend a little bit of time with you this evening talking about what's next. We're not, like I said, we're not done talking about Bruce Pearl. But there was the other part of this, as I mentioned earlier, the great quote I saw on social media, don't know who to attribute it to, but the cinematic universe has arrived with a post-credit scene of Bruce literally handing over the reins, the basketball, to Stephen Pearl. I'm going to be honest with you all here. If you didn't see this coming, we have painted it out for you without just verbatim saying it. Sometimes I probably did. Bruce has let it loose a couple times that I know I heard him say that when Stephen takes this over. My understanding of my assumption, I'm assuming, educated assuming, since his contract was renegotiated, this has been the plan all along, as long as things continue to progress the way they needed to with Bruce, with Stephen, obviously. And I think it has. So if you follow that trajectory, if you watch what's happened with Stephen, with him being given more and more responsibility, when you've been given the title of associate head coach, that is essentially the last step before you become coach in waiting. And you don't really see those labels applied much over this day and age, associate head coach. You've seen people that were eligible probably to be head coaches move on. The Todd Goldens, the Wes Flanagan. I know he's not a head coach anymore, but he's had experience doing that. So you can understand maybe why he didn't see an opportunity for him to continue to advance. So with that in mind, and if you kind of watch some of the things that were happening, the very first episode of the new Unguarded podcast on War Eagle Plus, the first guest is Stephen Pearl. He's making appearances on certain shows before Bruce Pearl or without Bruce Pearl. It's pretty much been the writing on the wall. This is Stephen Pearl's job, and it was going to be. And here we stand at the very beginning of that. So let me bring it back up on screen here just a little bit. Talk about some of the things. Once again, you can probably zoom in just a little bit if you need to. We're going to talk about Stephen Pearl a little bit. I'm going to expand that out just a smidgen for you guys. This is Bruce Pearl talking about his son. There is nobody more qualified or in the position to maintain our culture of faith, family, and doing it in the Auburn way than Stephen. He's actually tougher than I am and just as competitive. Out of loyalty to Auburn and me, Stephen passed on several previous chances to pursue head coaching opportunities, choosing instead to invest in our men's basketball program and help it reach unprecedented heights. He has worked tirelessly and been instrumental in the success of our program over the last 11 years. We would not have been in the position to make 2 Final Fours, win 5 SEC championships, and win as many games as we have if it wasn't for Stephen and this staff. I am so pleased that the DNA, that's a big word there, an important word, of this program won't be changing, and could not be prouder of Stephen, Brittany, and Lainey. What an awesome tribute from your father. What an awesome torch to be passed, and so apropos to the Auburn family. It's interesting you bring this up. Stephen Pearl versus Todd Golden is the game I'm looking forward to. This was already a great matchup, already a great thing that was going to be transpiring always in the Auburn experience as long as A. Pearl was here, especially Bruce, the mentor and the protege who did surpass in terms of winning a national title, at least for one season. We'll see if that continues for a new era of Pearl. But this is going to be awesome to watch. 2 best friends, 2 proteges of Bruce Pearl duking it out in an era where his coaching tree is just growing. Awesome to see. Speaking of, this is a great segue, and we'll keep bringing up some more comments more about Bruce here in a second, but we did want to spend some time on that today. Let me bring back up onto the screen for myself. I have it up for you guys already. Some more things. I put a bunch of these on here. We're going to skip past a few of them just because of time, but you can see there were statements from Chris Roberts, statements from obviously athletic director John Cohen, if you want to pause and read some of those. Let's read from Stephen himself. I think I had his on here, if I'm not mistaken. That was Stephen Pearl's. Okay, let me skip right here. This is the one we wanted to do with Todd Golden. Todd Golden put out a statement. Here we go. I'm extremely excited for my great friend Stephen Pearl as he begins the opportunity to lead the men's basketball program at Auburn University. Stephen and I have grown very close over the past 20 years, and from being teammates and playing together in Australia and Israel to coaching together in the early years at Auburn, as well as competing against each other in this last year's Final Four. I know Stephen is prepared and ready to continue the upward trajectory of Auburn men's basketball. Stephen has a great defensive mind, and the results of Auburn being a top defensive team in 3 of the last 4 years to speak to that. He is also a fantastic talent evaluator, recruiter. Stephen has been an integral part of Auburn's resurrection in hoops, serving in many different roles during his time on the Plains, and also being the one constant staff member alongside Bruce during the 11 years. Stephen is a great husband, father, and leader, and I'm excited to see him take the next step in his career. Stephen knows he will always have my family's love and support, unless, parentheses, the Tigers are playing the Gators. So going right off that comment we had right there. So we won't go through the rest of those things in the rest of the show here, but there are so many great statements from John Cohen, from Chris Roberts, other things out there. Stevens put out his own statements. But there's the future. Auburn and the Pearls are not done quite yet. Quite yet. And we're just beginning, reminiscing and looking back at the time that was Auburn and Bruce Pearl, just beginning our celebration and being so thankful for what he has done for Auburn basketball and Auburn University. Now, I do want to leave some time and space for you all to ask any more questions, bringing up any more comments about this. This is a reaction style show. So this has been me giving my takes with a little bit of input from you all, but please don't be shy. As I said in the show, there is an opportunity to use the call-in link if you'd like to. Just kind of left it open if anybody wanted to this evening. And any more commentary you all might have is always appropriate in the chat to bring up here this evening. I will give you a couple reminders and we'll round out our show with some other topics that you may have related to this. Reminders for you for our next available live stream. As far as we know, we didn't expect this one today. The Auburn Family Night Show. This Wednesday, live calls, live chat. It's our normal call-in show. That'll be Wednesday night, as it always is, at 9 Eastern time. Join us to talk all things Auburn, the Auburn experience, after all. Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family. You know the drill. Also, we haven't said this a lot lately, but we need to. Our friends at Alumni Hall, they've got some great gear for you. If you utilize our links in our description, you can access that, shop with them as an affiliate of theirs. Helping them, supporting them, supports us as well through those affiliate links. So please do shop with them. Alumni Hall, the ultimate Tiger shopping experience. All right. What else? Anything else that we need to address today? We've got William here. BP is the reason we are a relevant program. Can't wait to see what Stephen Pearl does. And let me address that too. We talked about that the writing was on the wall with this. Bruce has talked pretty openly about this is the way we were heading. I cannot stress this enough. There is a recipe for this already working, and you look no further than Duke right now. Yes, they have the name brand, all that helps. I acknowledge that. I'm not saying that that's not part of the equation. But continuity of taking someone that has been there, knows the recipe that works, and put their own spin on it, but doesn't change things up, is integral to success in a lot of cases. That's a good example of that. So we're stepping into a situation that is primed to work. Now, if it does, if it doesn't, that's going to be, just to be frank on Stephen, but I don't have any doubts that this thing is not going to continue to flow the way it needs to. Let's see what else we got here. I will never forget before the 2017 and 2018 seasons, someone asked, why should we keep buying season tickets when Bruce wasn't winning? One of the most unfortunately timed questions of all time. I remember those times too. There was some antsiness. It was like the third season and it just didn't feel like things were humming as much. And then, wow, what happened just right after that? So it goes to show you a little patience, a little bit of understanding of what you're working with, working against, the foundation that wasn't laid before you. Sound familiar in any other circumstances right now? Maybe, just maybe, Bruce Pearl, his story here at Auburn, shows you what should have happened all along. It's a great thing to bring up, Unbeaten Lake. This is from Terry. I feel sure that before it was announced with the team, or you're saying you think it was announced with the team, but has anyone heard of the transfer portal stuff? I know there's a lot of questions about this, and we're really not going to spend time worrying about that today. They do have the ability to go into the portal when a head coach leaves, and that starts today, I believe, for 30 days. It wouldn't shock me to see somebody change their mind, but Bruce has been a guy that's been, as far as we can tell and know, very open with where he's been at. He's said some things that indicate that he was at least considering this out in the open in interviews. And if that's the case, I'm sure that players have been prepared for this. I think the great thing to remember about this is that Bruce is not going anywhere. I'm not going to act like the Alabama fans do and act like, oh, because Nick Saban's got a desk up there or a office space that he's going to be there to save somebody. No, we're not here, but you'd be naive to think that he's still not going to spend time. He recruited these guys, and I'm sure it's going to be tough to just step away cold turkey. He wants Steven to be able to do what he wants to do. But I think you look at that and you see that the son of the guy that you've already been recruited by, coached by, in Tahad's case being the only one, you don't really see that much difference in my view. I mean, they're two different individuals, but they're father and son. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree in most cases. So I think continuity. I think the DNA, I love that what was said in the statement from, I think it was Chris Roberts. That's a great way because it's literal DNA that's just being handed down, Bruce and father and son. But the DNA that he brings to Auburn in the way that he plays, the defensive mindedness, what Bruce has been known, his teams have been known for, that is not going anywhere at this point. William says, if Bruce could make Todd Golden into a good coach, imagine how much Stephen Pearl will be. And to be fair, Todd Golden was always a great coach and had a great mind. That's the reason he started getting head coaching jobs as early as he did over at, I think it was San Francisco first, and then obviously at Florida now. You are sometimes judged more so by I would say oftentimes more by what you leave behind, what legacy you leave, and that's in coaching, your coaching tree. Unbeaten Lake wants to point this out. One advantage we will have, no matter who we have hired, aside from Barbie, would be Neville Arena. It will always be the hardest place to play. Now, I'm going to point something out here too. And look, I don't want this to just become a bash session about that person, but I am a very loyal person. When you put on the orange and blue, when you choose Auburn, I choose you, and I will give you time. I'm a very patient person in most cases. I'm very slow to jump off of a bandwagon because I believe it's important to recognize I don't have the full context of what may not be going or may or not be going on behind the scenes. But when Tony Barbie had been here for several years and he made the statement, well, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I remember seeing it and hearing it. He basically made the excuse that Auburn cannot win with Under Armour. Bruce Pearl just coached 11 years with Under Armour. He was never, at least in terms of playing an official game this season, the head coach of Auburn as a Nike school. In terms of playing game time, he was the head coach when they switched over, all that stuff. He wore Nike gear today in his announcement video. Bruce Pearl won with Under Armour. How about them apples, Tony Barbie? It's so silly. It's so ridiculous. It doesn't matter. What matters is the type of coach that you are. That beats everything else. The premises about recruiting, all that kind of stuff. It's been a nice thing to see. This is from Kevlar. I'd hope Stephen would take over after his father if he retired. I was glad to see that happened. I think this was the best way to get continuity. Perfect word there, as we've been talking about with our success. This is not a guarantee, folks, right? Just because there is continuity, just because the DNA is there, literally as some of the quotes we read said, doesn't mean it's guaranteed to start or continue. But you are set up for, if you're arguing that Auburn's not set up for success, you're just going to have to really work hard to prove me wrong on that one. I believe that Bruce, even if it wasn't Stephen, has left the groundwork. The cupboard is not bare. I think this is what's so important about this for me. Bruce is leaving Auburn better than he found it. And not just better, is leaving Auburn a completely, in every way possible, changed program. It's not even 180. Like, I know that kind of sounds, when I say it's a 360, because that brings you back to the starting point, but that's kind of what he did. He completely 180'd what people thought of it, but he went past that and created a whole new concept. This is not even the same circle, the same sphere, whatever you want to say in geometry. This is a whole new world where Auburn basketball is respected. Auburn basketball is feared. Auburn basketball is not a joke. Auburn basketball is chosen for the Maui Invitational, for the Players Era Tournament or Championship, whatever they're called, every single which way. And that is because of Bruce Pearl. So thankful for all of that. And great thing to think about for the future. If Stephen does well and he chooses to stay, he's only 38 years old. He's the same age as me. So imagine that. It's a long time that Auburn could be set up for success. We'll see. Getting a little ahead of ourselves. Any final commentary, questions, thoughts, things like that you'd like to bring up tonight? Don't want to leave anything unsaid. Like I said, this isn't the only time that you can talk about Bruce Pearl and things of that nature, but we want to make sure that we always give space and room for people to give thanks, like Naomi. Thank you, BP. We love you. Best of luck in the future. And War Eagle. Well said, and well said. And as I started the show out and hopefully expressed, I am grateful to Bruce Pearl because I often get asked this question, would you choose Auburn football or basketball if you had to choose? And I would always choose football because of the pageantry of it, of the spectacle of it. And I think Bruce has even said as much. He understands that, and he kind of leans that way himself. But there is something special and unique about the game of basketball that makes you want to be a student of the game, even if you've never played, and even if you don't play anymore. Like myself, as a former basketball player, and I was 1 year on a collegiate basketball team. You consider yourself a student of the game a lot of the times when you watch this game, and Bruce understood that, but he made it something you wanted to learn about, something you wanted to grow in, something that you wanted to also be entertained by. He was the perfect market person, the marketeer of Auburn basketball at the right time. And I think Auburn was the right school. I know Auburn was the right school at the right time. He was the right person at the right time for Auburn. And what an amazing 11 years it has been watching him not do a 180, because that was done and then some, going 360 to the point where we just start a whole new circle. That's Bruce Pearl. Thank you, Bruce. Before I get all emotional over here, I guess, we appreciate you all spending some time with us this evening on the live portion. For those of you that catch the replay or audio, thank you as well. And we hope that you are thankful and excited for the future and the foundation that Auburn has because of Bruce Pearl. Whether it was for championships, breaking losing streaks, winning number one ranking titles, getting to the Final Four for the very first 2 times, all of those things in between. He has etched his name in history with Joel Leaves, Cliff Ellis, Sonny Smith, so many others as well. Bruce Pearl, thank you. The winningest coach, the best coach, the greatest Auburn basketball coach in Auburn men's basketball history. Thank you guys for being here. And as we leave you, we always want to remind you in the Auburn Creed, we hope that you do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God.